dear young people of America, what I wish to you. Listen to his voice. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid. Open up your hearts to Christ. The deepest joy there is in life is the joy that comes from God and is found in Jesus Christ, the Son of God. Jesus Christ is the hope of yours, is my hope. He is the hope of the world.
Okay. That is JP2 speaking to the crowd in Toronto at the World Youth Day in Toronto. Well, I just wanted to start with that because I just think that it's important. His message was so powerful and more relevant than ever. Don't be afraid. Do not be afraid. And I just think that I need to hear it more. There's a real powerful thing, what you listen to and what you watch and what you hear and surround yourself with just continues to scaffold those realities in your life. There's ultimate reality, but then there's other things that you can create and you have like control over a little bit. And so the content that you take in will dictate how you feel about this. So I wanted to start with that particular speech by JP2. What are we doing here? What am I saying here for this? Let me turn off my notifications again. That happened last episode. Okay. What am I doing here? Podcast, No Eggshells podcast. We are on September 14th and Charlie Kirk has just passed away. I don't know. I'm not going to say anything about it because I think it would just be almost inappropriate for me to speak on it. I couldn't say enough or use it in a way that is anything other than what it kind of should mean already. And that is that, a really great man who did the most powerful work has been assassinated. And, so I'm not really gonna speak on it except that, he's just a really heroic figure and, I'm praying for him and what that means to the world is just been amazing to see. What I do want to talk about is how I feel in the wake of this experience and the call to life, the call to action that this has given me. That's kind of a little bit what I think we're all going for. He was on the front lines and he was doing just really amazing work. So we look at this example, and how does it make us feel? So anyway, I'm not going to say anything more about him out of just respect because I can't say anything more except that I think I hope it's more respectful that I wouldn't speak on him, except that that's how I feel about him. So anyway, it just a really great man and praying for his family. The work, though, what is the work? What are we doing here? I just felt really convicted that I haven't been kind of, doing more. I could be doing more. And why am I not doing more? And what do I feel about this? Why do I not do more? What is this? What am I feeling here? So, basically, I wanted to start with that speech from JP2, do not be afraid. That's the first thing. Fear is kind of a weird thing. It's like it's built up so much bigger in your head than it, like 9 times out of 10, actually is in the real world. And, Bishop Barron made a great point. The gates of hell will not prevail against you, kind of thing. And when we hear that, we don't really understand that because we don't live in medieval times. But in medieval times, when you were attacking a castle, you attacked the gates because the gates were the weakest part. So when we are told that the gates of hell will not prevail against us, we are on the attack. We're not on the defense against evil. We're on the attack against evil in our lives, in our days, in our moments of decisions and attitude and heart and love. We're on the attack. We're in the offensive. It's important for us to remember that everything we are doing in our life is on the offensive. Christ is victorious. On the cross, he is victorious. That's another interesting thing. I used to always, hear that, like, Christ is victorious, and I was like, yeah, but, like, he got crucified and he got marched through the streets. But another interesting thing that I heard from Father Mike Schmitz was, the Romans, the way that they would conquer their, like, whoever they conquered, they would march the king or whoever through the streets, and they would like parade them around, and they would show like a show of arms that they had conquered this person. And so they would march them victorious through the streets, and then they would, crucify them or something like that. And I used to always look at the passion of our Lord and be like, well, he's being conquered, but no, he's doing the conquering. He's marching sin and death through the streets. It's actually a victorious action. Even in the midst of his passion and death, he is victorious, and he's doing it in the Roman style of the times. And so you're always on the offensive. And I think it's very, it's quite cheerful, actually. It gives you a lot of courage. So, yeah, basically, I just want to talk about that a little bit. This is more of this episode. Some episodes I have a lot more finite things. Usually there's like 1 or 2 things that I want to speak on. This is a lot more, there's like a bunch of different things that I'm bringing in, a bunch of different concepts. And they're more feelings than they are thoughts. So if this seems different, that's why. But again, I think that it's a good place to start, is repeating to yourself, do not be afraid. That JP2 speech, listen to it a couple of times. Maybe listen to it in the morning, just remind yourself that we are on the offensive. We are on the attack as Christians in this world. And with that, this is just a brief thing about how to suffer, because that's the point. That's the example of the cross. It's actually the feast day of the cross. Let me pull this up. The feast of the exaltation of the Holy Cross today, which I'd never heard of, but it's very important. And why is it celebrated? This is just Google, but the feast day upon which many Christians commemorate the cross which Jesus was crucified. This day also celebrates the finding of the true cross and the restoration of the cross of Jerusalem. So it's just literally like celebrating the cross that Christ was crucified on. And it's a weird thing to celebrate that. Like, why do we celebrate that? But I don't think I'm alone in saying this, but Christ, we're told, desired the cross. He desired it and he wanted it. And you can look at that and you think, like, that's insane. Like, I don't want that to happen to me. But in my own life, this is the feeling after witnessing the assassination of Charlie Kirk. I want not necessarily to be assassinated. That's not what I'm saying, but I want I am in want of something. I'm in want of more. I feel called to more. I feel called to attack. I feel called to bring the battle to the gates of hell. I feel called to do that. And you can be distracted by the horror of it. You can be distracted by the heinousness of it. You can be distracted by the hate that's being flung at it inappropriately. You could be distracted by a whole bunch of different things. But I think the best takeaway is to feel called to it. What an example, and what a career, what an impact, with rippling, you know, just it's changed so much of the culture, I guess. And I want to participate in that. So I've been giving that some thought. And that's kind of what this episode is about. I think we're all called to do that. And that's not a secret to anyone that is Christian. We're called to do that. This what our calling is. And then we figure out how to do that specifically in our own lives. What are our unique gifts, and how does this work? That's kind of a big topic of this podcast, is how that plays out. I'm not called to do that by being a dentist, but a dentist, that's a very real calling. And you go to a good dentist, it's not nothing. It's important. So that's kind of a random side note there. But the point is that we all have this calling to do more. And one way that I think that we can do that, because sometimes you'll try to think like, okay, so my next reaction to this calling, this sort of, okay, I need to do more. I want to do more. How can I do more? There was two things that came up. There was a rally that was in Toronto. There was this rally, and it was called Canada First Rally, I think, and it was about like this anti-immigration, not all immigration, but the illegal immigration that's going on, where they're just sort of it's sort of an attack, I suppose you would call it, on it's an infiltration of our country, and it's to remove and destabilize our law and our order. And it's basically just an attack. And it's not just in Canada. Everyone knows what I'm talking about. It's worldwide, especially in the West. I guess it's just in the Western world. But there's been all these rallies that have been going on. Britain just had one. And some of the numbers are hard to tell exactly, but some people are saying 3 million. Some people are saying 1.5 million. And, so it's a big thing. Australia had one. All these, Germany's been having these rallies and everything. Europe's really suffering. Canada's about 2 years out from that, I would say, but we don't notice it because it's so sparse. But, it is happening. There's been more violence and attacks happening in Canada due to these kind of unvetted illegal immigrants being pushed in from, I don't even really know where, but other countries, I guess, are sending them here. So it's a thorny issue, but it's one that is being weaponized. And it's an interesting thing that's happening. So anyway, I go to this rally, and I just want to go check it out. I like a rally. I like getting into the political things and seeing what's happening, see who's moving, see what's going down. And so we go down there, and I'm thinking, okay, let's see how this goes. Let's see what this is like. We drive down, me and my friend, and we head down. Another friend of ours was down there. And it started at 1. It was going to go from 1 to 4. And we got there around 2:30. And right away, when I got to the park where the rally was, you could feel the momentum of something happening, which is not foreign to me. I've been to many protests, most of them pro-life, but some others are like political ones. During the convoy, I went to the anti-mask or anti-lockdown, and then end the restrictions and everything, anti-vaccination protests. So the energy was up, you could tell. But right away, you could tell that something was off. Now, I don't know how it went or how it ended or anything like that. But what I noticed was this. There were hurt people, and then there were other hurt people, and they were pointing at each other, saying that the other people hurt them and were to blame for the hurt. And then there was 12 cops on horseback looking over all of them. And it was I just thought like a real obvious depiction of what was going on in the media, in the news, all this stuff. Like it seemed orchestrated. Now, I don't know who organized the rally. And then I later heard that the people who organized it kind of moved it and shut it down pretty quickly because they realized that something was up. And, they kind of were like, okay, this, we need to organize it better, or we need to move it, or, who knows what. But the people who organized it had already left when we got there. And what you were left with were these two groups of people who had, on the one side, hoping to get stronger borders and protect Canada, this kind of thing. They were there, and they've probably had experiences. Maybe they'd known someone who's maybe an illegal criminal harmed them or harmed someone they knew. That's not unheard of. That's becoming increasingly more common. But then on the other side, you had these people who had been like, I don't know, attacked by maybe the system, or I don't know what, maybe some false authority, or maybe they had gone to university. That was the other big realization. They had gone to university, and the university had ingrained in them these false realities. So, they were hurt. These people were hurt. And a lot of them were, queer or transgender, or they were, waving socialist flags, or they were, doing all this stuff. And then the two groups were mixing together and yelling, and it was bad energy. But then you could also tell that like there was, I don't know, like it was kind of these government plants. And anyway, the point is this. The takeaway was this. I was looking at that and I was thinking, okay, I'm actually all for a rally, and I want to do more of this. But you know what's more needed? If I was to just look at these two demographics here, what's needed is a conversion of the heart. It's not an extrinsic thing. It is. And I'm not saying we write that off. I think we need more work done there. But the time when JP2 was speaking about do not be afraid, I think he saw it then, and I think he saw what was coming even more. The enemy is not out there somewhere in another land with their castle, and we're in our land with our castle. That's not how this works anymore. The battle is fought kind of in conversions of the heart, kind of through the day to day. Now, it's not only fought there; it's also fought in the culture. It's fought in these rallies, these demonstrations. The culture is a huge thing. The influence, the impact. 10 years ago, it was like, there was jokes in movies about someone wearing like a drag queen or like a transgender person. That was comedy, that would happen in the reactions of these people. Now it's been introduced into the culture, and it's common that, people are like accepting of that concept. That concept, just isolated, was radical and kind of shocking to think about, like not that long ago, even when I was like 15 or something. That wasn't, you heard that. Now, because it's been introduced into the culture, it kind of has to be accepted as like, just sort of, that's the case. So the war is also fought in every different level, but just a real realization was that it will be fought and won also in conversions of the heart. And I think that is that's not to be overlooked. So I don't know what the work is, I guess. I don't know what the work is, and I don't know what the answer to that. I mean, I do know what the answer is: the faith. The answer is, Jesus. The answer is a restoration of this, and then we can, we can reverse engineer that. Okay, how's the best way to do this? But up to that point, I actually don't know what else. um, and I guess that's kind of then what your specific vocation is about. But I just wanted to share my thoughts and my feelings in the wake of that, and then in the wake of the assassination, and in the wake of going to this rally and what I'm seeing. So I guess that's kind of it. This might be a shorter listen episode, but I think that I hope the recent events can be inspiring and can be encouraging. I hope that the recent events can be a call to action, and I'm not saying that, I don't know who you are listening. I don't know who you are. Well, chances are I might actually. It doesn't have that big of a reach yet. But even if I do know you specifically, I don't know what you deal with, and I don't know what your gifts are, and I don't, only you know this. But what I want to leave with is this kind of reality that, let's put some time aside. I'm going to put some time aside today to focus on what is the mission a little bit more. I'm going to analyze my sort of charisms, my gifts, what I'm good at, what I'm not good at. And I'm not going to try and be something else. I'm not going to try and do what Jordan Peterson does if I don't have what Jordan Peterson has as a sort of a bag of tools to work with. I'm not a clinical psychologist, so I can't really do what he does. I'm not a priest, so I'm not going to do what JP2 has done necessarily. There's going to be some overlap, of course, but I hope you get my point. You have a specific calling, and I guess that's all I'm trying to say is that the battle is far from over, and especially in Canada. I want to see more. I want to see more movement in Canada, and I think that we can. I think that we will. I think we'll start to see it, but it starts with, I took for granted the work that Charlie Kirk did. I just assumed that people did that and do that, and that's just who they are and what they do, and that's part of life. And realizing that could be taken away like that was kind of crazy. It's very fragile. The truth is very strong. We have the truth, and it's very powerful, but it's also up to us to carry it. And we're kind of fragile people. So it just made me realize that the importance of every day, every week, every month, every season of what we're doing. So I hope this has been an encouraging message, and the gates of hell will not prevail. We're on the offensive. And actually, I'm reading this book, The Way of Trust and Love by Saint Therese, and I don't know what page it is, but it's this great part of the book where she's talking about how she can participate in this. She wants to be a saint, and she gets this. She got it. This is the same battle she's talking about. This is what we're talking about: good versus evil. People are beautiful. People, like, I saw the two groups yesterday. Both of them kind of filled with hate. There was hate on either side. Like, politically, I probably lined a little more with the let's stop the borders. Let's have a lot more control over who comes into the borders. But a lot of them also, it was just hate that they were filled with. And I only say that because they were kind of spewing hate. I'm not making any broad assumptions. But then on the other side, there were people, the socialists, who hated their own body. They hated, whether they saw it that way or not. They didn't, they didn't love the truth, and they were spewing hatred against the other people. They were calling them Nazis and fascists. They were spewing hate, and it was just hate versus hate, and it was crazy. And I was standing there. It's not like I had some profound moment, but I've always thought this, like people are such like it's so crazy. Like, you're so innocent as a human. You're kind of they're so caught up in this like pathos, this passion. There's so much confusion. They're children, they're these children that never really knew that much almost. It's like I don't know. They don't know what they're playing with almost, and it's not like I'm above them or anything. I feel the same way, but it was just kind of amazing to see. So anyway, I'm off topic, but the way of trust and love, Saint Therese, she got this. She understood this. She saw the world this way, and she's talking about how she can participate in this. And she's talking about her weakness. She's very weak, like physically and mentally, spiritually. She feels weak. And she suffered because of it. She suffered a lot. And she realized the way she could participate in this was to offer up her sufferings, and this isn't a foreign concept again. But I think it's one worth revisiting in our thought or listening to here. We suffer so much on the daily, and it's sort of thing sometimes we just take for granted. Maybe it's like you're just tired, or maybe you have to do it, or maybe something came up, you know what I mean? Life is pretty fun and enjoyable, but sometimes, it's hard. And her point was, don't waste this. We can offer this up. This is a real opportunity. And there's another great story of JP2, who his friend got cancer. It's pretty tragic stuff. A guy, this older guy, I think he's 50, 60, gets cancer. It's not fun. It hurt, agony, all these things. And JP2 was talking to him and he says, don't waste it. And I just thought that was amazing, Like, have you ever felt this way? You'll have a hard day, No getting around it. It was a hard day. You're just like, jeepers, nothing, you felt just off the whole day. Your mind was working against you. You didn't feel motivated. All the things, you didn't even do the things you'd set out to do. You didn't feel successful. All these things, hard day. Well, like, thank God for the cross. Thank God that you can participate in this battle, in this way. Offer it up. This is my friend Peter made this point, but God has you coming and going. On the one hand, if you're doing well and you're answering the call to sanctity, well, then you're heading towards, you're walking with Christ towards God the Father. You're striving this way. You're doing well. You're on mission. But if you're not on mission, if you're going the other way, you're relapsing into whatever sinful habit, whatever. Well, he's got you going the other way too. He's already on the cross, which is the sin incarnate. Christ was, I think St. Paul says that he was like without blemish, but then he became sin itself, like the depiction of it. So he's the furthest that way you can go. So he's got you coming and going. He's covered the entire spectrum. There's nowhere on there you can't not be uniting yourself to him. So it's very encouraging that he's kind of there either way. He's got you coming and going. And it's up to us to just offer that up. It's a pretty simple intention. And I always used to struggle with that. People would be like, it's love. The answer is love. And you're like, well, that's pretty vague. What do you mean? Love? Okay. What, am I just supposed to love right now? Okay, here I am loving. It's like, yeah, actually, but it's actually true. Like, offer up the moment. Offer up the coffee, the little things, do it with the intention of love. And maybe you're not that conscious of it at first. Maybe you just do it once in the morning or now and again throughout the day. But I think as we keep doing it, my theory, hopefully, is that you get better at just sort of living in that. And then it becomes unconscious, but it becomes not unintentional. You just kind of go on autopilot with it. And that's what the saints really got nailed down. They nailed that down. So, yeah, I guess that's the thing. We can offer this up. This is the war. This is the battle. It manifests in these ways. This is the cross. This is what's so exciting about the cross is, I think, it's kind of we need to reclaim the cross in our in our society. That sounds like one of those like vague, sorry, I'm just catching myself. It sounds like one of those vague things you hear and then you're like, what does that mean? That sounds profound, but I don't know what it means. Let me just explain myself a little bit. It's like, you know, we're we're ashamed of it, it's like, or we're afraid of it. Like, oh, you gotta pick up your cross. You're like, man, what a drag. It's like, no, you desire it. You desire it. You, God is giving you a first class ticket to be like, to be with him, to be alongside him, to be as close to him, to unite yourself closely with him. You know what I mean? Hey, you admire me, you love me. Well, guess what? You can be me. This we can do this together. Uh, this is the invitation. So, um, you can participate with me in the best way in the battle for souls on earth. Here's your cross. Here's your here's the ticket. You know what I mean? Come aboard. Drive the vehicle even. I'll sit in the passenger seats, that kind of thing. So, um, it's very exciting stuff, and I think we need to re-understand the cross. I think it's pretty exhilarating. Um, you will be refreshed. You will be given the energy required to carry it, and part of me feels like it's going to be hard, but also it's like the feeling of when you decided not to go to the gym and you didn't even have a good excuse. You just decided not to. You feel crappy after, You just feel crappy like you missed the opportunity. The world is that much less because you didn't do it. And like, don't forget, I was just talking about, you can offer that up, and that's the redemption. That's the redemptive part of the cross. But, you know, it God works, I think, of course, he'll take if you didn't do the thing, he can work with that. But I think he prefers, and he prefers it because you would prefer it if you did the thing. So, okay, this is getting pretty vague, but that's the point. That's the point. Those are my feelings. Those are my thoughts. This is the podcast. This is how it goes. Yeah. Okay. Charlie Kirk. We'll pray for him, and what an inspirational guy. And I just dedicate this podcast to him, I guess. And yeah, I guess that's it. There's going to be more of this to come. I said last week that there wouldn't be any music before the podcast, but I'm thinking I might add it after. I think I'm going to add it now at the end of this one. That feels right. And yeah, I think that's right. It put things in the right perspective, that outro song. So, okay, do not be afraid. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to play the JP2 thing again. That's what I'm going to do. You know how it goes with these podcasts, are fast and loose. Here we go. All right. God bless everybody.
What I wish to you, listen to his voice. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid. Open up your hearts to Christ. The deepest joy there is in life is the joy that comes from God and is found in Jesus Christ, the Son of God. Jesus Christ is the hope of yours, is my hope. He is the hope of the world.